free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Copon. It's April 14, 2025, and this is Lift and Learn episode 138. In this episode, I'll talk about how increasing calories can actually help you lose weight. That's right, sounds impossible, but it's not if you just stick around and listen to that part. And then I'll talk about how slowing down your reps in the gym can actually be more beneficial to your gains better than just simply adding weight to your exercises. Before that, though, I'll talk a bit about what I've been up to lately, and that might include fitness-related topics, and it might not. If you want to follow me, your host, on Instagram, it's isaiah.copon, and you can also check out my website, isaiahcopon.com. The podcast is on Instagram at Lift and Learn Podcast, on Twitter at Lift and Learn Pod, and also on Facebook. You can just search Lift and Learn Podcast. With that being said, let's get into it. Let's just get this out of the way first and foremost. You may be wondering at this point, Isaiah, why aren't you posting episodes every week? You know what? My intention, for real, is to do episodes every week, but I just don't realize how busy things are nowadays. Even looking back at 2024, I only released 6 episodes last year, and to start this year, this is only my second one. Yeah, the podcast has just taken a bit of a backseat to everything else going on right now. I'm back to reading a bunch of different stuff. Typically, that would be self-help books. Those are usually my go-to. But I've actually started a bunch of different courses, which have taken a priority as well. I'm currently enrolled in NASM CES, so that's Corrective Exercise Specialist. And that's actually been more challenging than I thought it would be, having to learn like origins and insertions of every muscle group. I thought that was hard in my early 20s. But now that I'm in my mid-30s, I respect those who go back to school to learn new things because I just don't retain information like I did back when I was like in high school or something. So yeah, that's taking up more time than I thought because I actually need to pass this exam at the end. I was also reading up on FST, which stands for Fascial Stretch Therapy. I just finished a week-long course for that certification at the end of February. So I was just familiarizing myself with what I'll be learning. On top of that, obviously, I have a full-time job as a personal trainer and full-time job being a dad, which I'm not using as an excuse. I still need to get things done. But yeah, it's a lot right now. I'm trying to be more efficient with my time because I have no choice. That's the way life is right now. It's just taken a bit of an adjustment for me. This podcast was easy to handle during COVID times, you know? What a different time that was. Can't believe that started like over 5 years ago. Life's definitely way different than it was back then, but anyways, let's just get on with the episode. I don't even know where or what I'm even going to talk about here, but I'll just kick it off with nutrition. I think that's always the go-to, typically, when I don't have anything else to talk about. In terms of my own meals and what I've seen with my clients, a big one, besides the protein goals that are tough to hit, plus adding more vegetables into their diet, one for me that's been important, and I think that has been a huge help these last 2 to 4 weeks, is my increased fiber intake. I make sure to have at least one meal a day where I have my chia seed with the Greek yogurt and some berries. That easily adds 15 grams at least of fiber to my day, which is huge if I'm trying to get nearly 40 grams a day. I think ideally for me is 36 grams, and I'm getting really close to that now because of this meal. I just have to remember to have it every day. The consistency is the real key there. I actually have a new client telling me that she makes her own granola from home, which is like sugar-free, has all the chia seeds, hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds. So that one's just straight up packed with fiber. I'm starting to track my meals again now, though. Now that my shoulder is starting to get a little bit better, I need to seriously get back on track, literally. So this week is prep for meals, calorie target's going to be hit, protein target's going to be hit. IG posts are set for the week, so you can follow me there if you'd like as well. I need to prioritize myself this month. That's what I'm working on. Like I said, it's been a struggle. Sometimes I'm just wondering where the time's gone. It's actually starting to get warmer now. Golf courses opened last week, but this is my passion right here, and I have to start acting like it again. Seriously. I never thought I'd be someone to lose motivation, but I actually do go through those days, especially the last 3 months with my most recent injury, where I actually don't feel like working out, which is crazy to think about because the guy was like religiously would work out at 4 a.m. every day for years. I know I've been talking about the shoulder for a while now, but another injury has popped up. Wow. Groundbreaking. Guess what? I played basketball last week, hurt my thumb a little bit. I just jammed it, not too serious. It swelled up, some bruising as well, but thankfully it's not dislocated. I've had to deal with that before. It should be better. I feel like towards the end of this week. Hasn't really affected training too much. I can't really bench or hold dumbbells. So, I mean, machines have been holding me down for a little bit, which is not the end of the world. Lower body and core, that's been the focus the past 2 weeks. I've been working out for nearly 12 years now. I'm not going to just straight up stop. I know that. But this past week, I set my goals for the rest of the year, and I'm just going to go after it. I trained hard this past week. I can't be slacking off anymore. I think the goals will help me get my mind right and just refocus a bit more. I'll never be someone to fall off completely. I know that. Movement is medicine. I'm a big believer in that. But if I'm being honest, I don't push myself as hard as I did when I was in my early 20s. Obviously, but I'm trying to refocus and reconnect with myself because I do still have strength goals I eventually want to get to, and I still want to look pretty good when I'm like 40 or 50. I want to just be the most jacked dad when I pick up my daughter from school or whatever it is. I'll always be active, but I want to do more than that. And I'm trying. Sometimes you just need that break to get that fire under you again. I think I'm there right now. I've just been blasting my headphones, getting after it. I also think I need to change the scenery with where I train. I need to just spend some days of the week training somewhere else besides where I work. So I'm going to think about that too. I did that twice this week, actually. I went to Powerhouse Gym. I just need that in my life. I might have to actually take a trip over to like Pure Muscle and get like a 6-month membership. But then again, that's like a big investment. But it is only like 15 minutes away. It's 24/7. I feel like I should take advantage of that sometime soon. I started playing basketball Sunday nights. That's something I love to do. I still want to dunk a basketball at least once in my life. Just once. So some of my training has been centered around increasing my max vert, so like how high I can jump. That's been actually pretty fun. A style of training that I've never actually done or actually focused on. I've always trained in a more bodybuilding or powerlifting style, obviously. So breaking up my training that way has been actually pretty engaging for me and just more fun. I've also been playing some pickleball lately. Oh yeah, I'm on that trend. I know. I think I'm decent at that, but I'm just trying not to injure myself because I really hate this recovery process. Even this shoulder injury, I'm really surprised it's still bothering me to this day, but it is what it is. Just taking it day by day, man. And now I got this thumb. I heard about somebody tearing their Achilles playing pickleball, so at the same time, I'm not trying to do that, So much for talking about nutrition there. Totally got off topic, just rambled a little bit, but that's a little peek into my brain and my thoughts. I just need to get that out there. Hold me accountable if you can or if you want to. Getting back to my meals. What I've found to be helpful when it comes to that, believe it or not, is that my daughter is now eating solid foods throughout the day. So stuff I'm preparing for her, I usually don't eat, like butternut squash. I mean, now sweet potatoes are back in the diet like twice a week. She's had some peas. That one is not very good, I must say. Avocados are more active in the house now that now that they're there, I eat those before they go bad. So in a way, my daughter's helping us as a family diversify our diet. So that's been a good change. More vegetables in our life. If you know me, I'll usually cycle through like spinach, broccoli, and asparagus, and that's about it. But now I'm really trying to expand on that because we have to finish her leftovers most of the time too. But she's been a really good eater so far. Not sure if she loves broccoli right now, but everything else we've given her, she just absolutely demolishes. She's a beast. Last week I did my best to clear the fridge, clear the freezer. We needed to start fresh in the household. So this week we're loaded up with tilapia, salmon, chicken breast, shrimp, plus the vegetables are ready to go. I need to continue this April cut properly, so minimal distractions the rest of the month. Question 1. How eating more calories can help you with long-term weight loss. All right, so this is a tricky one, especially when all you hear is that you need to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. The thing is, that's true. You can't be in a surplus and lose weight, but I want to talk about how increasing your calories can help you in the long term when it comes to losing weight, and more importantly, the right weight. How you can lose body fat by increasing your calories in the short term. So I'll dive into that a little bit later. I just want to talk about my life as a coach or trainer for the past 3 months. So basically to start the year, now that we're like 3 or 4 months into the year here, I did my own little experiment. I mean, not really. I've been doing this most years, but this year is the time where I've actually had over 10 clients do the same thing, and I get to see the results in real time. Almost all of my clients were generally eating anywhere from 1,200 to 1,700 calories, most of them within 1,400 to 1,600, but there were some outliers. So on average, my typical client was eating around 1,500 calories. Their goals were pretty much the same. They want to lose, give or take, 10 to 30 pounds. An inexperienced trainer would go right away into a calorie deficit. So what that would mean would be actually taking out calories. So now instead of eating the average 1,500 calories, by the way, there's going to be a lot of numbers here, but yeah, instead of eating the average 1,500 calories, they're closer to eating 1,000 calories a day. Initially, on paper, this should work for a few weeks. They'd lose maybe 5 to 10 pounds or so, and then they'd hit a plateau. And what that would mean is that to push into a further calorie deficit, they would either have to remove more calories or increase the amount of movement they do throughout the day. That might mean now incorporating some form of cardio every day to achieve this calorie deficit goal, the net calories. That might mean cutting calories to below 1,000 calories and then adding in a half hour or an hour of cardio every day just to stay in that calorie deficit range. Fine. Again, that works for a bit and then another plateau. Then you have to keep on adding more cardio or cutting more calories in order to be in this calorie deficit. You can see how dangerous this could get, right? Now, this person may be getting closer to their goal when it comes to the scale, but in terms of health, absolutely not an ideal place to be. You could be looking at possible nutrient deficiencies, which could cause even more issues. The better approach, which is what I've done with my clients after I realized that method doesn't work, after like a year or two into my own training or coaching way back in 2015, I was doing this method, but I didn't know much coming fresh out of school. The real world, much different. Now that I have 10 years coaching experience, I realize that the reverse diet is a better method. That's what this is. Eating more calories so your metabolism adapts to that. So what that means is that from the initial 1,500 calories, we'd actually add calories to this and constantly monitor what happens. So initially, I'd go anywhere from 1,800 to 2,000 calories, depending on the person. So we add around 300 to 500 calories, and then you just wait. Initially, that transition comes with a little resistance from the client, like, my goal is to lose weight. Why would I add more food or calories into my diet? Or, it's already hard for me to eat this much. Well, that's why you're coaching this person. You need to find a way for them to get quality food in while more than likely adding more protein into their diet. Eating more calories will lead to a few things over the next few weeks. You're going to prevent the metabolic slowdown. Your body's really good at adapting to your lifestyle. It does a really good job at that, actually. So when you're lowering calories, your metabolism will adapt to this change, and it makes it harder to lose weight in the long term. If you do the opposite, if you eat more calories, your metabolism, again, will adapt to that, and you'll actually boost your metabolism to a certain extent. You're keeping your metabolism active. Not to mention if you're working out at the same time, which kind of leads into the next point here. You're supporting muscle growth. The added calories, especially if you're increasing protein intake, will help you maintain and actually build more muscle. Another reason why lifting weights is so important during this phase, especially, again, this will increase metabolism as well. Your BMR or basal metabolic rate will go up the more and more muscle you add, so your body is running even more efficiently. Let's break down some of the differences between eating low calories and increasing calories. Obviously, a big one is reduced hunger cues, and sometimes if you're eating low calories, some people may tend to binge every now and then. This form of yo-yo dieting is actually a lot more unhealthy than most people realize. If you're constantly restricting yourself of food and have one night out, that may turn into a big cheat day, which makes it even harder to lose weight because most of that food from that binge day may turn into body fat. Hormone imbalance, that's the next point I have here. I kind of talked about this earlier. I talked about nutrient deficiencies with the abnormally low calories, and this is another factor as well. If you're constantly under eating, this is going to mess up and disrupt your hormones, especially leptin, which controls hunger, along with cortisol, which is responsible for handling stress. This in turn will affect how well your body burns fat. That's something people don't realize. If you don't fix this first, then it doesn't really matter how many calories you're eating. It doesn't matter how many carbs you cut out, how many meals you cut out. It will still be extremely difficult to get to your desired body fat percentage or just lose weight in general. If you don't fix your hormone imbalances first, this journey is going to be a real struggle. So going back to what I've done with my clients, like I said, we're like 3-4 months into the new year. I had most of my clients add more whole foods, more calories, more protein into their diet. Most of them were questioning it at first, like, why is this the strategy? We increased calories every 2 weeks or so, adding about 200 calories week by week. On average, by the end of March, my clients were all eating about like 1,000 to 1,500 calories more than they were at the start of the year. The best part, on average, the scale moved like 2 to 5 pounds. That's it. I think the biggest change was like 5.5 pounds up from the start of the year, but this person's body fat was unchanged. I think it went up like 0.2%, and their muscle mass went up 2.5 pounds. So their body composition was arguably a bit better. That's what happened the past 3 months. Everyone's pretty happy with their results. And now that they're on average eating 2,400 to 2,500 calories, 1,000 more than when they started the year, now we can actually get towards their end goal. Now we can start the calorie deficit from a much healthier place. Now they're going to be eating around 1,700 to 2,000 calories and watching fat shed off their body. As opposed to before, where they'd have to eat 1,000 calories or lower and pretty much just suffer and starve their body of nutrients that they need. Ideally, I'd even push the calories even further, but you kind of do this once just to see how the client feels. And next time around, you're just going to have to push more in the higher calories trajectory if they didn't get to their intended goal. Me, for example, and some of my experienced clients, I get them eating over 3,000 calories on a daily basis, not just every now and then. And then now we can start to cut at like 2,700 calories with a bit of cardio, and then that's their new deficit. For me, my plan for April is doing a mini cut, a little bit of a diet break, so 2 to 4 weeks or so. I'll be sticking to around 2,500 calories and see how that feels. I may drop it to 2,000 if I feel good at the end of the month. The only thing that changes really, honestly, is the carb intake, because protein needs to stay high throughout the whole process. After that, I'll be back to the bulk. In this new place, though, everyone's eating a lot more calories but still managing to lose weight, so they're thriving. No more binges. I mean, some cheat days can actually happen without much consequence because there's actually some buffer room. There's actually some room to enjoy food and life, you know. Eating the right calories, that's the key though. Whole foods, nutrient dense. I don't just mean adding junk food or highly processed foods or ultra processed foods or whatever. This approach is so much better in the long term when it comes to weight loss or just overall better body composition goals. If you're someone who identifies with anything I said today, not eating enough calories, then reevaluate what you're doing. You may have to do this reverse diet eventually and fully dive into it, not just for a few weeks and then going back to the low calorie strategy. This is going to change your life quite literally. You're going to have more freedom when it comes to your diet and what you can eat on a daily basis. Plus, you'll see the results you're looking for because more often than not, people really just don't eat enough food. I think this is a problem for over 90% of people that I talk to every day. It's about figuring out how you're going to add those good calories. That's the hardest part. But if you really want to get to your goals, you need to think about really implementing this strategy into your life. Question number 2. Why slowing down the reps could be better than adding weight? I know there's all this talk about progressive overload, and I'm a big believer in it as well. That's where you're tracking workouts and making sure you're getting stronger over time so that you build muscle and in turn boost metabolism as well. Here's the thing though, you won't be able to get stronger forever. That's the truth. There's so many ways to, quote unquote, get stronger without adding weight to the bar, and this is one of those ways. Slowing down reps could be so important when it comes to seeing continued progress throughout your lifting career. It has a bunch of advantages and we'll go through some today. The first one that comes to mind is the time under tension aspect. This is basically talking about how long your muscles are under duress or straining during the whole set. With the slower reps, there's more chances that they'll be under stress, and the end goal would be more growth, plus you get stronger as well. There's just a way better muscle activation compared to just moving the weight. You're actually engaging the muscles more by moving the weight slower, and this will actually make the set harder too. At my condo gym, They have only up to 50-pound dumbbells. For me, that's heavy enough for most exercises, but movements like the incline bench press, I could do more than double that. Rows, I could do a significant amount if I'm just doing like a one-arm dumbbell row. And even for shoulder press seated, that's not enough weight. But I can make things harder by slowing down the reps, though, that's for sure. I can make the weight feel heavier this way. If you slow down the negative portion of the movement, then that will make things a bit harder. I had to personally learn this the hard way. I just thought I could keep adding more and more weight to the bar and found out the difficulties of that. I remember when my bench press got heavy for me, which was over 275, I started to get like some elbow pain, which would derail my workouts for the next week or so. Luckily, I didn't get any serious injuries like a pec tear or something, but I just remember on bench press, my left elbow would act up a little bit to the point where I was actually taking glucosamine for joint pain. Not sure if it actually helped, but it did eventually go away. And then on squats, when I was over 315, I started to get some knee discomfort, so I'd walk around with like a slight limp. And then also my low back started to hurt a little bit, which could have had to do with the load on my back, possibly compressing my spine or from the butt wink that I had at the bottom of the squat along with the load. Now I realize I could build muscle in a safer place by going lighter on most exercises while focusing on the muscle that I want to actually work, not just by me physically moving the weight from point A to point B without worrying about what muscle I'm using. And this just results in less stress on your joints when you're lifting. This leads into the next point, which is that you have a heightened mind to muscle connection with the slower reps. You're now forced to use the correct muscle as opposed to just using the stretch reflex. Specifically, if we're thinking about a squat, there's a stretch reflex when you transition from going down with the weight and then going up. A lot of the times, if you're just doing your squats, you'll kind of bounce out of the hole, especially if you're going faster. You might notice this a lot more. If you're going slower with your reps, you can actually think about activating your muscles properly. If you look at a hip thrust, go a bit slower on the way down and don't just move the weight up. Really focus on slowing it down and just focusing on squeezing your glutes on the way up. And even a good squeeze at the top will help you with that mind to muscle connection too. And injury, that's a big one. There's two things I'll say regarding injury. The slower reps will actually reduce the risk of injury because when you're going slower, you're improving stability and control throughout the movement, therefore reducing the chances of you turning to sloppy form and putting unnecessary stress on a joint. Another thing I'll say is that when you're recovering from injury, this is also why slower reps could be beneficial. I've noticed this myself. I'm still recovering from a shoulder injury. I'm just always going to talk about this. That was from like early December. It's getting better, but this is one of the ways I've been able to get back into training. These slower reps, time under tension, it helps so much when it comes to not losing my gains and actually making positive trends towards my own goals, which is to get stronger again. My training has been centered around this style of training for right now. Especially when it comes to upper body movements, because I have to be safe. For me, isometric holds and slow movements when it comes to like a kettlebell shoulder press or internal external rotations, that helps a lot, even though it's boring, but that's what my body needed to recover properly and optimally. If you've never trained this way, you're in for a surprise. You should plan out a little workout block of maybe up to 12 weeks where you're doing your reps at half your usual speed and see how much you'll have to go lighter on certain exercises. Notice how much muscle you put on too. Notice how much better your body feels. You probably won't feel as beat up as usual, but will still manage to transform your body if you're still pushing the same intensity, or you might find that you can actually push through your movements more. That's just a personal thing. So I hope you learned something from today's episode. Both topics today, I feel like we're going against the grain there. Eating more to lose weight, it doesn't make sense, but in the long term, it makes things easier if you do things properly. And then going lighter on exercises, moving the weight slower in order to build muscle in the long term without putting that extra stress on your joints. Both of these topics I feel like are more advanced methods that just come with experience from training other people a lot, or just experience from working out for a pretty long time in general. This isn't something I learned in school. This is something that you find out what it works in it works works in the real world, real life experience. So try both out, and I'm sure you'll be building a solid foundation when it comes to getting closer towards your health goals for the year. And that concludes episode 138 of the podcast. Thank you for listening. If you really enjoyed the episode or my podcast as a whole, then please leave a review and comment on iTunes or whatever your choice of podcast platform is. Also, if you haven't already, you should hit that subscribe button because I'll be releasing episodes every Friday. If you want to follow me, your host, I'm Isaiah.Copon on Instagram, and you can also check out my website, isaiahcopon.com. If you want to follow the podcast, you can check out @Lift and Learn Podcast on Instagram, and there's also a Facebook page if you just search Lift and Learn Podcast.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.